du film Sirat.
From Sirat.
Nous allons commencer par accueillir Jade Oukid.
Jade Oukid.
C'est elle.
Here she is. Sergei Lopez.
Le réalisateur
The director Oliver Laxe.
La comédienne Stéphanie
The
Agada.
actress Stéphanie Agada.
Le comédien
The actor Tonin
et le comédien Richard Bellamy. Et nous saluons aussi toute une partie de l'équipe du film qui est ici.
Other members of the film who are sitting in the front row. Congratulations.
Et j'ai une première question pour Oliver Laxe. Votre film, donc, le titre est Sirat. C'est un titre assez mystérieux et lapidaire et très beau. Est-ce que vous pouvez me dire pourquoi vous avez choisi ce titre et ce qu'il signifie pour vous avec ce film?
Bonjour, merci. Oui, Sirat veut dire littéralement le chemin, la voie. Et en même temps, c'est le pont qui communique l'enfer avec le paradis. Et ce qui j'aime bien parce qu'il parle que l'enfer, c'est une phase, c'est pas un lieu clos.
Hell is just a phase.
Un lieu de transformation.
It's not a closed area. It's a place where transformation, change occurs. And the film is a quest for transformation, for change. Sirat, it sounds good. It's a very musical word. It contains a kind of light within it, which is good for the film. It's a whole world. It's a whole universe. We'll take questions. There's the first one here.
Hola, buenos días. Voy a hacer la pregunta en español. María Guerra, Equinótico de España. Una pregunta, bueno, felicidades a todos. Una película realmente monumental. Oliver Laxe, Sirat, hoy me parece como Cannes, como un lugar lleno de gente un poco buscando, perdiéndose. Me gustaría que nos contaras cómo ha sido tu viaje de ayer a hoy, mostrando tu película, y que nos hablaras de la producción. Tú eres hijo de Cannes, pero estás aquí con una producción española. ¿Cómo ha sido este viaje? Y me gustaría que nos hablaras de la importancia de un productor como Domingo Corral, que digamos que ha arriesgado su carrera para que tú estés aquí. Gracias.
Gracias. Efectivamente ha sido un viaje largo.
Well, indeed, it was a lengthy voyage. It took about 15 years for my first film, and then I had a second and a third one in all these selections. And then, I really enjoy filming, and indeed we have the crew here which gave me huge support, and they accompanied me on this journey. I'd like to underscore the work they did. Obviously, the Almodovar film helped me know the Garcia family, and others. It would have been difficult without Cannes to achieve all this and go about my work as a filmmaker. Is it okay if I speak Spanish? Well, I've just heard.
Ask you a question in English ou en français. Et est-ce que vous pouvez répondre en français ou en anglais? Je suis désolée, il n'y a pas de traduction espagnole.
Madame demandait par rapport à Cannes.
Oui, en fait, the question concerned Cannes, and it was of paramount importance for me, Cannes, in my professional life. Were it not for Cannes, it would have been very difficult for me to make my films. So I'd like to thank Cannes for taking the risk. It's a wonderful place for films, be they fragile, great, risky.
C'est le lieu du cinéma, vraiment.
The focal point for the cinema. The energy is there.
C'est vraiment un lieu de résistance.
It's really a place of resistance. Films like yours are real gifts for Cannes. It's a win-win situation. Fortunately, there are films like yours which create the wealth of the corpus of films around the world. I think there are lots and lots of questions in the room.
In French, please.
Hi, my name is Lena Bassi, and I would like to thank you for your film. It made me awake I mean, it was very intense to watch, and I can only imagine how was it like to shoot. And could you please just share with us the most challenging moment of the production, and maybe something about the rewarding moments too? Thank you.
Tous mes films sont compliqués.
All my films are complicated and ask for a lot of production. You have to keep thinking about how you can produce, how you can shoot a film in a fire, real fires, for example, or how you can shoot scenes in a rave party. What was riskiest in this project was the project per se. It was the actual proposal of the film. You've seen the film, it's a very risky one. We don't respect the laws of genre, and it's a very different kind of a film. I'm very pleased. I don't know whether people will like or not like the film, but I'm very pleased with the actual gesture. I think we were very bold, we were very daring, we didn't measure things, we didn't calculate, we just leapt into the film. And I'm very proud of us as a result and our attitude.
Une autre question?
Another question?
Good morning, Arnau Martín from This is Film from Peru. Enhorabuena a todo el equipo por la película.
I'd like to congratulate the whole of the crew. It's a wonderful film.
To Oliver about the idea of the absence in the movie regarding the daughter of the protagonist, because I was thinking about La Ventura by Antonioni, where is Anna, where is the daughter, And I'd like to ask how was to create the movie from there, from this idea. Thank you very much.
Je pense que tous les êtres humains on est un peu cassés.
All human beings are a bit broken. We have a hurt somewhere. We're all a little bit broken. And we create an idealized vision of ourselves in order to get rid of this break. And you see the rave parties, people traveling, and it's a way of showing this broken part of people. In fact, this film enabled me to heal many things. I think it's wonderful to be able to propose a sort of a commonplace, a very trite person like me or like Sergi, who has to cope with his own emptiness. The film really shakes him and forces him to ask himself who he is. And I think that is the way in which life actually works. It was important, therefore, to show someone who was looking for his daughter, and he has to cope with one of the most horrible things that could ever happen to someone. He has to plunge into himself, into his innermost depths, and it shows that when you're pushed to your limits, in fact, you find what's best in you. I'll put a question to Sergi Lopez. You're the only character who didn't know where he was going, but you go anyway. You go ahead. The other characters seem to know where they're going, but you're the only one who forges ahead without knowing where he's aiming. So how did you actually approach this character? I worked scene by scene, like life itself. I don't think I'm the only person, or my character isn't the only person who doesn't know where he's going, where he's heading. The other people seem to have a compass, but they don't really know either. That's what life is all about. That's why we have this film. We know that life has all sorts of unexpected things in store for us, yet we just forge ahead, and we have to go ahead with our lives, and that's why we're happy, why we're pleased to be on Earth. They're traveling in these trucks, they don't know where they're heading. Maybe everyone would like to say a few words about that. How did you view the film?
C'était une expérience intense d'être
It was an extraordinary experience.
Protagoniste et complètement paumé dans
I was a
le
protagonist,
cinéma.
but completely lost in the cinema,
Si j'ai un mot, c'est
in this art. It was amazing.
L'expérience très grande ma vie.
It gave much more meaning to my life.
Et vous, Tonon?
And you, Tony? It was an amazing experience. It was incredible. And just to be able to show who we are, because it's the world in which we live. And we were able to express ourselves and show people that everything is possible. You can listen to music. That's what makes us really vibrate. Another question from the back?
Là-bas, excusez-moi.
Pardon. Rodrigo Fonseca from Brazil, Correio da Manhã. Oliver, it's an amazing film. Congratulations. I have two questions. I would like you to say a few words about the sound engineer of the film. The sound is amazing. The second question, watching the movie, the desert scenes, the desert landscape, the rock landscape, Alejandro Jodorowsky, El Topo came to my mind all the time. Jodorowsky was an inspiration somehow. Could you say a few words about the references? Thank you.
I didn't see El Topo. No, I didn't. I think I didn't see any of Jodorowsky films. I read him, and I mean, yeah. I think my film is a ceremony. It's a really cinematographic ceremony. I mean, we are inviting the spectator to really develop or to we are stimulating all the level of perceptions. I mean, we are really using cinema as a tool, esoteric tool of penetration of the human metabolism. I mean, is our intention. We'll see if it works in that sense. No? Par rapport à mes intentions, surtout, bien évidemment, il y a beaucoup de films, des films plus autorales.
There were a lot of films which inspired me. Bresson's films. We make very sober films because we are Europeans after all. We were also inspired by the American films of the 70s. Because these are films that are deeply connected to the time, to a given generation. And the 70s was very similar to this day and age. Lots of wars, lots of violence in society, the emerging of a different society, a counterculture. And all these films, just by chance, they managed to portray all the fears and dreams of desires of people at the time. And in our humble capacity, we also wanted to be deeply connected to this day and age, to our times, to portray the desires of the generation of today.
Et par rapport à la musique, bon,
and in
il y a
terms of the
ici
music,
Kangin Ray,
here we have Kangin Ray, who is the composer.
J'ai continué à travailler avec ma famille, avec Mauro
I continue to work with my family, the cameraman, and others who helped me write the script. I was able to go so far to cover all this distance thanks to them. It's the first time I've worked with David, and I think he's one of my myths as a director. It was a real trip, a real voyage. We have this techno music, and it's very strong beat, which is almost tribal. It's angry, so to speak. It's full of rage. It's very powerful. And then at the same time, you see this voyage. The beat gradually disappears and things become much more esoteric. The tune turns into the sound of a different, more ideal world. It's an echo of the future world. Like the film becomes less material. It becomes more esoteric itself, and the music is the same. Thank you. Any other questions?
Good morning. I'm Scott Demler from RogerEbert.com in Chicago. Congratulations on the film. I think my jaw is still sore from hitting the floor so many times last night during the screening. I was wondering if you could speak to the final images of the film on the train and how they fit into the other themes throughout the movie that you were trying to portray.
You know, I don't like to interpret much to talk much about my intentions, you know, because I think a film has to transcend the author, you know. I mean, it's this, you know, and I always make really like crazy films that, I mean, I like to have problems in the shooting, you know. I mean, I like that the film transcend myself, you know. I mean, and so I like, you know, to allow, you know, to polysemy, to the ambiguity. I think it's when you allow images to really, bam, you know, to explode and to create a lot of meanings. And I don't know. I mean, this train. What can I say? It's a train, and it could probably is not a train too. No, I mean, you can feel that is another thing, you know, and these people, we don't know if which dimension they belong, no, probably, or you don't know if they are Palestinians, if they are in Morocco, if, you know, I mean, but what I like it is this, you know that the history of these people, you know, it's like fusionated and lost into all these 500 stories, you know, that you have of these people that also have their Sirat, their path, you know, their challenges.
Une autre question ici.
Another question here.
Good morning, all. My name is Erika Abreu. I'm from Rede TV. It's a Brazilian station in Brazil. My question is for Sérgio Lopes.
Attention.
Sérgio, you okay?
Well, we will try.
Okay.
Come on.
Sorry, I don't speak French. Yeah. Well, your performance feels so emotional, and I just think, what part of your personal experience or your personal experience you use to help you to connect so deeply with this character?
Okay, the answer is easy. Zero. Zero. I don't know. It's not. It's a joke. It's not zero, but not consciously. You know, for me, I think play is a mystery. It's something that you have to go down. You go in, and forget yourself a little bit. But even if you try to forget you and you try to believe that your name is Luis, that I'm not Luis, and all the people know that I'm not Luis, and Bruno, Esteban is not my son. So it's not true, but we have to try to touch a little truth, and it's impossible, you know. How it's impossible? So you have to believe. You have to have a faith. Faith is a faith, eh? Faith. So you know, faith. And you try to play, and I think my body, my exceptional body, my body have a memory, and he knows all my life, and you know. So I'm not consciously to put things about my own experience, but my own experience is in my body. So I work with my body, and I try to leave him free. No?
Parfait.
Perfect.
tal? Buenos días, Felipe Flores para el medio Apuntes de Cine desde México.
Mexico.
Muchas felicidades.
Congratulations.
Mr. Laxe, I noticed a strong impact of the migrant phenomenon. In Mexico, it's very common. How did you support the development of your film, the migration, the illegales phenomenon? Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat, please, the question? I'm sick, I'm sorry.
Don't worry. I noticed a strong impact.
Dímela en castellano.
Ay, gracias a Dios.
Could you put your question in Spanish, please?
Mr. Laxe.
Thank you very much for your
impacto muy
film.
fuerte en cuanto al fenómeno de los migrantes.
You
En mi
have
país es muy común
migration,
vivir esto. El
and the
personaje de
impact
Sergio
of
López
migrants on
igualmente
countries
fue
is quite
clave
big.
en esto.
And I
¿Cómo el
think this is a
fenómeno de la
key
migración
component.
ha impactado
How
el
did
desarrollo
the
de su
phenomenon
filme
of
y las
migration
consecuencias que ha
impact
de
your
ello?
film?
Gracias.
Gracias. Yo he
Well,
vivido
thank you for the
muchos años en
question.
África,
I
en
spent
Marruecos.
many
He
years in
vivido
Africa and
casi
in
12
Morocco.
años.
I lived in Morocco
Y
for
bueno,
nearly
estoy
12 years.
muy familiarizado, ¿no?
So,
Mi primera película
I'm very familiar with the
hecha en
country
Tánger,
and with migration,
Marruecos,
and you can see
bueno,
it in my first film,
era con emigrantes, ¿no?
where I talk a lot about
Y
migrants.
hay un eco, sí que hay un aroma.
And there is an echo. There's a sort of a perfume, an aroma in many of my films, which deal with the movement of people. This film is a bit the contrary. You have the people who are migrating come from the north, come from Sweden and elsewhere, and they seem to be ready for this. I don't know whether we're all ready to move, to migrate, but certainly this does feature in my film, this theme.
Autre question?
Any other questions?
Hervé David Onla,
Hervé David,
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
Je suis un peu très intéressé, très étonné.
Vous êtes où?
Keenly interested and surprised by one point.
J'aimerais bien savoir comment s'est passé justement le casting.
How the casting took place. I'm deeply impressed by the different profiles of the actors. So how did you go about the casting? It's really impressive. They come from different backgrounds, different professions. I'd like to know more about that.
Nadia Simi, qui a dirigé le casting, n'est pas là.
Well, our casting director isn't here, unfortunately.
Voilà, on aime la vérité, on
we
aime
like truth. We like all the textures of a dream.
De cette tradition.
We come from this tradition, and we like people, basically.
Surtout, on pouvait pas faire un
Above
film
all, we couldn't
de punk avec des
make a
acteurs.
punk film with
Lui, il peut jouer un papa.
other actors. Okay, he can play the part of a dad. That worked in the film. He's really very punk.
Il est peut-être plus punk
Maybe he's more
tous,
punk
mais,
than the others, in fact.
Mais voilà, donc on est allé on a fait beaucoup de teuf, on a fait une équipe de casting.
We did a lot of work.
Pas des gens du cinéma.
We had a whole team for the casting. They weren't people from the cinema. We went to convince all these countercultural communities, people who travel, who like the techno scene. We had to convince them to go for the casting. And we chose people person by person. One by one. In all my films, I've worked with unexperienced actors.
Ça m'émeut beaucoup.
For me, I find it deeply moving, and I think that viewers, spectators, sense this fragile dimension in the films. There's a huge amount of light and pureness when you make a film with someone who doesn't have the experience. It's something I very much like. And then we had Sergei, who's extremely experienced, and it was great to mix these two components together. We struck a very happy balance. For me, this film was also a personal process.
Dans le fond, j'ai compris que je suis très proche.
I understood that I was very, very close to this community.
Une autre question.
Another question?
Bonjour, Gérard Chargé, Cinézoom.
Gérard Chargé, Cinézoom.
Par rapport justement
I have a question
au paysage, au lieu de
about
tournage.
the landscape and the place where the film was shot. I think the place is very important in the desert.
imaginer
One could
les
imagine
métaphores que vous
any
avez
number
incluées dans
of
le film. Est-ce que
metaphors
c'était une
in the
volonté comme
film.
ça de nous
Was that something you did on purpose?
faire penser à ce qui se
Did
passe
you
sur
want
ce
us
territoire? Parce que c'est pas
to
anodin tout
think
ce que
about
vous
what
dites et
happens
tout
in
ce qui
this
se
part
passe
of the
par
world?
rapport à cette situation.
Of course,
Parce que
the
c'est vrai que moi, j'ai vu
situation
beaucoup de choses
there is quite
métaphoriques.
important.
Est-ce que je
I
me
found a
trompe ou
lot
pas?
of metaphorical things in the
Oui,
film.
en fait, c'est une aventure physique.
Yes, it's a physical adventure.
Mais en parallèle, une
And
aventure
at the same
métaphysique
time,
aussi.
it's a metaphysical
En même temps,
adventure.
donc, le symbolique est fort et important.
So
Et c'est très
the
compliqué de trouver
symbolical
cet
dimension
équilibre,
is very
que
important.
le
It
symbolique
was
ne tombe
hard
pas
to
dans quelque
find
chose
a happy
dans
balance.
des idées ou quelque chose abstrait.
We have the symbolical dimension, abstract ideas.
On a fait confiance
But
au
once
cinéma.
again, we just placed our trust in the cinema and the power of the images. Images which contain many different meanings. And the story is sort of a universal archetype. It's something we all have within us. Think about Mad Max. Why does that touch us, move us so much? It's because it's sort of a preview of the end. And that touches us, that moves us. We always talked about Mad Max Zero. We had a lot of fun during the making of the film. Sort of an apocalyptic Mad Max idea was very much in the forefront of our minds. Now as to the landscapes, the landscape helped us.
En fait, que les spectateurs sentent.
We wanted spectators, viewers,
ils ont en train de voir quelque chose de très concret, de très matériel,
they were seeing
mais il y a une
very down-to-earth scenes, but there was a strange worry.
Il y a un enchantement.
There was some kind of magic, some kind of enchantment.
Et ça, on espère que c'est dans le film.
Almost tangible in the
se
film.
dématérialise aussi,
And
comme
the
la musique,
landscape
comme
becomes
le
less and less clear, like the music and like the storyline.
On arrive au désert, on passe par les montagnes.
You go through the desert, you go over the mountains. It's an extraordinary adventure through all these spaces, and the human beings have to fight, have to struggle.
Exploser le ballon de l'ego et voilà.
The adventure blows apart their egos, and you have to learn to cope with your fragile characteristics, and you just have to make the most of life as it is. Any other questions?
Hola, soy Alicia García de la agencia EFE, nos vimos ayer. Yo voy a hacer ma cuestión en francés, mais
I'll put my question in French, but I don't understand why there's no translation in Spanish. In any event, yesterday, at the first screening, the reaction of the public was quite incredible. What would you like to say about that? Is it a question for me?
En fait, moi, malgré ce que peut-être des spectateurs peuvent penser, mais je pense toujours à les spectateurs.
People may say, I always think about the viewers, the spectators. They're the people who we actually work for.
Le moment dans lequel on est en train d'habiter, comment est le spectateur et
And
comment je dois faire
at every moment, I think about these spectators, how they are going to understand the film.
Et quelle était la question?
What was your question, in fact? The reaction.
Ah, voilà. Donc hier,
the reaction
effectivement,
yesterday
hier,
evening.
C'est un moment. Bon, ces jours-ci, c'est très excitant, mais
it's very exciting to be here.
C'est des moments. On est tranquille. On est très tranquille avec le geste. Je pense que c'est le plus important dans l'art, c'est le geste.
Very relaxed and happy with the film. We made no concessions in making the film.
Mais voilà, t'es toujours très expectant.
Of course, you always have high expectations, and you're very keen to see how the public's going to react. We had maybe 1,500 people in the room, a lot of people.
C'est comme prendre une fusée dans un rocket, non, et aller à la Lune. Quoi. On a envie d'aller à la Lune, mais le rocket.
Taking off for the moon in a rocket.
Il faut faire le tapis rouge et tout.
Of course, it's not quite the moon. You have to go up the red carpet, but it's an amazing experience.
L'intensité du film.
And what about the intensity of the film?
On trouve que c'est notre maison ici, et
well,
c'est
we
aussi
feel
la
very
leur.
much at home here.
Je leur ai dit.
And I said this to my actors. I said, you have to walk up the carpet with great confidence. It's our home.
Une autre question.
Another question?
Pardon.
Bonjour, Monsieur Oliver.
Hello,
I
Oliver.
sensed during the making of this film that you had already crossed your own personal Sirat. What is it about, did you discover an essential truth in the making of this movie that brought all of your various parts of your own personality together, and will it influence the making of your next movie?
I'm not thinking on a future movie, you know. I'm really slow filmmaker. I have to understand, you know, what we did, what we have done, what life tell us, you know. I'm tired to make plans, and you know, life is all the time changing my plans, so I prefer to wait, you know. Yeah, it was a really deep creative process. I think what I learned is to connect more with my scars, with my blessure en anglais.
Cicatrice, scars, et blessure, wound.
Wound, with my wound, you know. Wound. You know, I mean, like all the people, we are identified with the idealistic image of ourselves, you know, is a mechanism, psychological mechanism of defense. So to make this process, I really, exploring their scars, that is really visible, you know. I mean, they live with their scars, they show it, and it's a step of maturity, you know. So this process was this, you know, to connect to connect more with my lack, you know, with this child wound, and I discovered that I'm a raver making this film. Yeah, you know, cry, scream, but don't stop to dance. Yes. Never, even if it's the end of the world. This is the. This is what I understood doing the shooting. We were shooting this rave. It was a real rave. I mean, it was really crazy to shoot this. And I remember, you know, the last day we just finished the shooting, and I was in the top of the mountain watching everything, you know, we did to make this film. You know, I mean, all the tracks, all the people, you know, I mean, 1,000 people in this rave. And I was looking at my neurosis, you know. I was looking at my craziness, you know, as an author, you know, like, wow, all that you do just to ask for love. Wow, you know. And I was, it was in the middle of the shooting, you know. I was like broken in a way, you know. But the music was still going in the dance floor, you know. And I was like, it's when I really understood, you know, what was about this film. What is about raving, you know, was tough.
Nous avons une question là-bas.
Oui, bonjour, Tasman pour le Media Maze. Du coup, vous avez à peu près répondu à ma question, puisque pour moi, c'est un film sur l'espace politique de la fête, de la rave.
About the rave party as a space, as a place. Maybe others would like to add to the answer.
De la limite, en fait, de la fête,
I
un moment où le monde
have the impression that the world is going from bad to worse. And do you think it's still possible to hold such a party when it's nearly the end of the world? People are feeling disenchanted with the world, so we have to re-enchant them. I think times are tough, but they're very stimulating at the same time. We'll have to look deeply into ourselves. That's what we're forced to do, because it's a tough world now. And that's the feeling we wanted to trigger in the audience. Look at what this character does in the film. He has to look deeply within himself, and it's not easy. It's rough, what you see within yourself. But you have to do this. You have to overcome all these obstacles in this rough terrain.
est-ce que le film il est lumineux ou pas?
Is the film luminous or not? Is it negative or positive, pessimistic or positive? I wanted people to plunge deep within themselves to see what's there.
Dernière question.
One last question.
Bonjour, Enrique Bonet pour les journaux espagnols El Correo et Contexto.
Congratulations on this beautiful film. I have a question for Sergi Lopez. What was your experience with Oliver Laxe? And what's your view about this new generation of Spanish filmmakers? We have Oliver Laxe here and Carlos Simon as well in Cannes this year. I'll start with the end of your question. I can't talk about the whole of the Spanish cinema, but it is very true that there's a lot of positive energy about. And we have a lot of Spanish directors here in Cannes in various sections. Your first question was, what was it like working with Oliver? It was a tremendous, wonderful trip and quite incredible at the same time. Despite what my character lives through and the story we're telling all together, I had a fantastic time. I had a great time. I had so much fun. Well, it's not because things were fun, but what I experienced was totally amazing, maybe because I looked into myself. I questioned my innermost depths, and that enabled me to gain a better understanding of my profession. It was almost a spiritual experience. And, I was able to work with very different people. I was able to tell a story that maybe doesn't exist. And I was deeply moved. It was fantastic. It was great. Even in the sand and the heat, with the fatigue. It was a fabulous experience. And Oliver? Well, we actors and actresses need to be inspired, need support. And he does just that. We need inspiration. Because things were very ethereal in the film, and we needed to have a guide. Sirat is a voyage, a trip we all had to accomplish together. And it was wonderful to have so much support and someone who was there by your side. Thank you very much for having come, and I'd also like to thank the whole of the crew for this fantastic film. We all embarked on this trip with you, and it was quite exceptional. Thank you very much.